The room exploded with laughter. 150 people in a luxury ballroom laughed at a joke my mother had just made about my husband. I stood frozen beside our table near the kitchen doors while crystal chandeliers glittered above wealthy investors, executives, and my father's business partners. My mother leaned into the microphone with a smile that looked warm from a distance but felt razor-sharp up close. "At least Diana managed to find a husband," she said sweetly. Then she added the line that broke everything. "Even if we still don't know what he actually does." More laughter. My father chuckled. My younger sister Madison smirked into her champagne glass. Cameras flashed as guests enjoyed the entertainment. And beside me, my husband slowly pushed his chair back. Markus stood up. What happened next made a billionaire drop her wine glass. But to understand that moment, you need to know how we got there. 6 years earlier, I met Markus in a crowded coffee shop near the elementary school where I taught 3rd grade. I was exhausted from parent-teacher conferences and desperate for caffeine. The only empty seat was across from a man typing intensely on a laptop. "Is this seat taken?" I asked. He looked up and smiled. "Not at all." We barely spoke that first day. He worked. I graded papers. But when I packed up to leave, he glanced up and said, "Same time tomorrow?" I came back. So did he. For 2 months we shared that same tiny table. No awkward interrogations, no status questions. Just quiet conversations about books, kids, and life. When he finally asked me to dinner, I said yes before he even finished the question. Markus told me he worked in education. I told him I was a teacher. That was enough. But my family measured success in bank accounts and boardrooms. So when I eventually told my parents about Markus, my mother's reaction was exactly what I expected. "Education?" she repeated with obvious disappointment. "So he's a teacher?" "He helps kids learn," I said. My mother sighed like I'd confessed to something tragic. For the next 4 years, family gatherings followed the same script. Madison would announce another massive deal at my father's real estate company. Everyone applauded. Then my mother would turn to me with polite boredom. "And Diana, still teaching?" The word teaching sounded suspiciously like unemployed when she said it. Once I invited them to a play my students had spent months preparing. My father glanced at his calendar. "I have real meetings that day." Real meetings. But the worst part? Markus heard everything. Every insult. Every dismissive comment. And he stayed quiet. Because I asked him to. I thought keeping the peace meant staying silent. I didn't realize silence was just permission for them to keep hurting us. Then came my father's retirement party. The invitation placed Markus and me at table 14, the one by the kitchen. And that's where everything finally exploded. Because when my mother made that joke in front of 150 people, Markus decided he had been quiet long enough. And when he started walking toward the stage, I had no idea he was about to reveal a secret that would change the entire room. But the real shock? Someone in that crowd already recognized him. And they were about to say his name out loud. When Markus stood up, the laughter slowly died. At first, people assumed he was heading to the restroom. But he wasn't. He walked calmly through the ballroom toward the stage where my parents were standing beneath the bright lights. Whispers started spreading between tables. Who is that? Isn't that Diana's husband? My father frowned as Marcus stepped onto the stage. Can I help you? He asked with forced politeness. Marcus took the microphone. My name is Marcus, he said calmly. Diana's husband. A few awkward laughs echoed across the ballroom. My mother hurried forward. This really isn't the time. I think it is, Marcus replied quietly. The confidence in his voice made the entire room fall silent. For 4 years, he continued, I've sat at your family dinners and listened to jokes about my job. He glanced toward my table. I stayed quiet because Diana asked me to. My chest tightened. Marcus looked back at the crowd. But tonight you humiliated my wife in front of 150 people. Madison pushed forward from the front row. Oh my God, she scoffed. Is this a speech now? She grabbed the microphone. Diana, come get your husband. He's embarrassing himself. Marcus didn't move. Madison rolled her eyes dramatically. Look, she told the crowd. I know it's hard marrying someone with limited ambition. More nervous laughter. Maybe he's a tutor, she continued, or some kind of test prep coach. She turned back to him. Working in education, right? Marcus nodded. That's correct. Madison smirked. Exactly. She handed the microphone back to him like she'd just proven her point. But Marcus simply smiled. I do work in education, he said. Then he paused. I just don't grade papers. Someone in the audience shifted. Marcus continued. I build educational platforms. He let the silence stretch. Technology used by millions of students. At a nearby table, a woman suddenly stood up. Jennifer Walsh. One of my father's most powerful investors. Her face had gone pale. I knew it, she whispered. She stared at Marcus like she'd just seen a ghost. Madison frowned. What are you talking about? Marcus adjusted the microphone. My company is called EduSpark. The room exploded with whispers. Phones appeared instantly. People were searching, reading, realizing. Jennifer turned to my father, stunned. Robert, do you seriously not know who this is? My father looked confused. No? Jennifer's voice shook. EduSpark was valued at $200 million this year. The ballroom went completely silent. Madison's champagne glass slowly slipped from her hand. And then Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Inside was something that would change the entire night. And when he revealed what was inside, my father realized the worst mistake of his life had been sitting at his own dinner table for 4 years. Marcus opened the envelope slowly. The room felt like it had stopped breathing. Inside was a thick document. A contract, Marcus said calmly. He held it up so everyone could see the logo printed across the top. EduSpark. Gasps spread across the ballroom. This, he continued, is a $5 million grant. 5 million. The number echoed through the crowd like thunder. My father blinked in disbelief. A grant for what? Someone asked. Marcus turned towards me. For STEM programs in underfunded schools. Then he said the words that shattered me. The first school receiving this funding is Lincoln Elementary. My school. The same place my parents called my little teaching job. Tears filled my eyes as Marcus continued speaking. Your daughter shows up every day for kids who have nothing, he told my parents. She buys classroom supplies with her own money. She stays late helping students learn to read. His voice softened. Diana is the reason EduSpark exists. The room was utterly silent. Marcus looked around the ballroom. You all laughed tonight when her career was mocked. He paused. But teachers like Diana are the reason millions of children ever get a chance. Jennifer Walsh nodded slowly. She's right, she said to the crowd. EduSpark changed the industry. My father's face had gone completely gray. He stepped forward nervously. Marcus, perhaps we should discuss business opportunities. Marcus looked directly at him. No. The word echoed across the ballroom. The opportunity was 4 years ago, Marcus said. When you could have treated your daughter with respect. My mother tried to speak. Diana, honey? But I stepped forward before she could finish. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of them. I walked onto the stage. The microphone felt heavy in my hands. My name is Diana Parker, I said. The disappointing daughter. Uneasy laughter spread across the room. For 32 years I tried to earn my parents' approval. I looked at my father. I chose a career I love. I looked at my mother. I married a man I love. Then I gestured at the crowd. And tonight, you all learned my husband is successful by your definition of success. I took a breath. But here's the truth. My voice grew stronger. If Marcus were broke, if he really did make minimum wage, your treatment of us would still be wrong. No one spoke. My parents looked like they'd just lost control of the world they built. And that's when I finally said the words I had waited my entire life to say. But what happened after we walked out of that ballroom was something none of us expected. Not even Marcus. Marcus and I didn't speak until we were in the car. The city lights blurred past the window as my phone vibrated endlessly. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails. 14 from my mother. 6 from my father. 3 from Madison. I turned the phone off. Are you okay? Marcus asked quietly. I thought about it. I feel lighter. Like I had finally dropped something heavy I'd been carrying for years. The next morning, the fallout began. Jennifer Walsh called Marcus first. I owe you an apology, she said. I had no idea Robert's family would treat you like that. Then she added something interesting. I also withdrew my investment from Robert's project this morning. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Apparently the Boston business world had already heard the story. Robert Parker humiliates a $200 million CEO at his own retirement party. The headline practically wrote itself. 2 major deals my father had been negotiating collapsed within a week. Madison was quietly removed from a project she'd been bragging about for months. Reputation, I learned, travels faster than money. 3 weeks later, I finally agreed to meet my parents. In a small coffee shop. Neutral territory. They looked smaller than I remembered. My father spoke first. We want to start over. I took a sip of coffee. Starting over requires acknowledging what happened.
Silence.
Finally, my father sighed. We pushed you too hard. No, I corrected gently. You pushed me away. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We just wanted you to have security. I do have security, I said.
Just not the kind you respect. I leaned forward.
I'm willing to try again. They looked hopeful. But respect is the minimum requirement now. They both nodded. Whether they truly meant it, I didn't know yet. That night, Marcus and I sat on our balcony overlooking the city. You okay? He asked. I smiled. For the first time in my life, I think I actually am. Because I finally understood something. Your worth isn't decided by your parents. Your worth isn't decided by money. Your worth is decided by the life you build and the people who stand beside you. Marcus squeezed my hand. And for the first time in 32 years, I believed it. But here's the real question. If you were in my position, would you forgive your family or walk away forever?